Welcome to another GTN Coaches Corner where we answer your questions. On today's show, we talk about swimskins,
fat adapted,
keeping your eyes closed in the open water,
what does kick or pull mean,
and shoulder burn after swimming.
Well, if you guys have a burning question that we haven't answered yet, please do share it with us. You can either leave it beneath this video or any of our other videos using that hashtag GTN Coaches Corner. And a quick reminder, if you haven't yet done so, you can click on the bell icon and subscribe so you don't miss any more of our videos. And to kick us off, we have this question from Thomas Coombs, who says, I see the benefits of both swimskin and tri-suit, but why do so many pros combine a sleeveless swimskin with a sleeve tri-suit during the swim? Isn't any tri-suit that is aero enough, i.e. tight enough to have no wrinkles, going to be too tight when you're swimming?
Oh, good question. Swimskins, we get quite a few questions on because, well, not many people use them and they're pretty rare. Most age group races actually allow wetsuits or, very rarely is the water warm enough not to use a wetsuit. But the reason you see pros doing that is because the swimskins are designed to obviously be off your shoulders so that there's flexibility, but they're pretty tight and restrictive. And also that material that they're made out of is not very breathable. You wouldn't want to use that on the bike or the run. Now you would say, why don't they just put that hydrophobic coating that's on the swimskin on your tri-suit, but then you'd be pretty uncomfortable later on in the day when it got warmer. So swimskins only go up to your shoulders. They don't go over your shoulders, but you do want to wear one in the water. Now you may say, well, if they're wearing those sleeves all the way down over their shoulders, it's going to restrict their movement, but it really doesn't. That tri-suit material is really flexible and really thin, and it doesn't restrict your movement at all, but there is still a big benefit for having that hydrophobic swimskin coating over the rest of your torso. So that's why they do it. It's not for everyone. Some people just roll it down. I used to roll it down.
There's a whole other, whether you roll it down or not. And you see quite a divide in the pro field with that.
I used to roll mine down. It depended on the suit. I used different suits, and sometimes I just wasn't happy with that shoulder flexibility, and I'd unzip it, roll it down, and tuck it in my small on my back. And then when I finished, I'd take off the swimskin and pull it back up and put it on.
It depends, I get, on the length of transition. You sometimes see pros struggling with getting broken zips and stuff. So there's a bit of a risk involved with that one. But back to the swimskin itself, if you haven't ever worn one, trust me, it does make a real difference. And I think coming from a swimming background, when we used to, back in the day, have those full swimskins, and there's something just about the compression and just the feeling of it. It's almost like putting on a race shoe.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. So if it is a non-wetsuit swim and you are looking at speed, then investing in a swimskin, probably worth it, like if you're going to Kona. Next question, and it's from Vasanth Kumar, and he says, hashtag GTN Coaches Corner, I do 1 meal a day with a fat-adapted body. I did 2 Ironman 70.3s with no calorie intake and would like to see if it's recommended to do a full Ironman in a fasted state. Wow. I mean, 1 meal a day for starters is nuts.
I feel hungry just thinking about that.
Exactly. As for doing an Ironman in that fasted state, again, I'm just going to go with no. I mean, I understand the point and I understand the principle of improving your body's fat adaptation so that you can burn fat only or burn fat efficiently. And you can improve your body's fat adaptation quite significantly. Someone who's well fat adapted can burn as much as twice as many grams of fat per minute as someone who's not so well fat adapted, which means you can meet many of your body's energy demands by burning that fat. But you can never burn as much fat or as fast metabolize that fat as fast as you can metabolize carbohydrates. So if you're doing something like an Ironman and you're going to be out there for many hours, yes, being fat adapted is very advantageous because you're not going to run out of fat. Your body has a lot of fat, like
over 50,000 calories. I'm thinking.
Yeah, 70 to 80,000 calories.
I mean, we
probably,
all obviously vary as well.
Some people have way more than that even. But the point is, you're not going to run out of fat, and you can keep going forever, even if you're not eating anything. But it will still be slower to metabolize that fat than it would be if you were eating carbohydrates. The ideal is to be really well fat adapted, like Vasanth clearly is and has trained himself to be. And on top of that, also have the carbs. So you can use as much fat as possible. You're never going to run out of energy. And you top that up with a bit of carbs so you've got plentiful energy to get through your Ironman. You can do a whole Ironman on eating nothing in a total fasted state if you want to. I mean, it's possible to do it, but you will almost certainly be faster, even if you're very well fat adapted, if you're also taking in carbohydrates at the same time. That would be my advice to Vasanth. Obviously, each to his own, and if you want to prove to us that you can do it in a fasted state, you will be able to. You will definitely be able to get around it. I would argue that you would go significantly faster if you also take
I think the interesting thing is the fact that normally, obviously going up to double the distance, it's going to be harder for that fuel source, but actually because the pace is going to be slower if you're doing a full compared to a half, that in theory maybe the limitations of the pace are not as limiting over full distance, just to throw that spanner in.
It'd be easier to actually meet your energy demands on a slower Ironman for longer.
Maybe.
And you're not going to run out of fat. Still, I think you should take some carbs.
Yeah, interesting topic. Anyway, thanks for that one. This next question comes from Angela G. She says, is keeping your eyes closed during open water swimming okay while your head is underwater? I really don't like open water swimming. I have a silly fear of things touching me while I swim. I actually like the black line in the pool. I open my eyes to sight and breathe sometimes, but for the most part, I keep my eyes closed. I haven't tried it in a race yet, but in practice, I seem to swim pretty straight. Well, Angela, you're not silly, and if things are touching you in the open water or might be, then that is quite scary. And I know James is...
Yeah, especially if you come from South Africa.
Well, exactly. Yeah, they're far scarier there. But like in all honesty, recently I actually did this, and I swam a lot of open water, and there were a whole load of jellyfish, and I just couldn't cope with it. So I closed my eyes and I opened when I sighted and when I was trying to see my friend that I was swimming with. So to start with, it's not silly, and if this is your way of dealing with it, it's okay to start with. The issue will become when you do a race and you've got other swimmers around you that you need to be just slightly more aware of, where everybody is. But then I guess you'll be sighting a lot, and if you're sighting, you're lifting up and you're looking ahead. It's not what we'd recommend, but it's certainly a coping strategy for the time being.
I'd say there's no real deficit to doing it. You're not going to lose anything, especially when you're on your own out there. But there's some advantage to opening your eyes during a race. You can follow the bubbles from the person in front of you, which makes it a lot easier to navigate. You can see their feet and you can follow their bubbles with your eyes open under the water. But yeah, you really are keeping yourself straight and keeping yourself going in the straight line when your head is above the water, when you're sighting, and under the water. It really makes no difference. So if it makes you feel more comfortable to close your eyes, go ahead.
I would actually say one final point though, when I used to have quite a lot of fear of open water swimming, and I couldn't even put my head in as I swam water polo with my head up, until I went with a friend and I swam on her feet and all I watched was her feet. So maybe if you are swimming with someone, like James says, you can concentrate on that, so you're not even looking elsewhere.
At the sharks.
Now you've really put it off, haven't you?
Okay, our next question is from DDD Boom. What do you mean by kick or pull? Do you mainly use front crawl, breaststroke, or backstroke? Oh, well, this is a quick answer. We refer to kick and pull all the time in our swim videos. Kick is basically only kick, as in you're not using your arms, you're holding a kickboard, or at very most sculling with your arms, you're just kicking. Pull is isolating the pull. It's isolating just your arms. Generally what you do to use that, and triathletes love doing this, is putting a pull buoy between your legs. That helps your hips stay in an upright position, in the normal position, without kicking at all. You basically don't have to use your legs, and you're isolating the pull. So kick is just kicking, pull is just pulling, and they're basically training tools. So you sometimes kick, sometimes pull.
A note on that one, a lot of triathletes are also guilty of putting in a pull buoy and still kicking their legs, which is not what it's designed for.
Isn't that cheating? No? You're not allowed to do that?
That is definitely cheating. But as for which stroke, I mean, in triathlon, obviously, we all try and do front crawl, so the predominant amount of your training needs to be in that stroke. But breaststroke, backstroke are great for mixing it up, and butterfly is also great for some strength work. Isn't it, James?
Yeah, I love butterfly. On with the show, next one. Lisa Jenkins says, I just started the swim-bike combo as part of my training, and well, how do you deal with a shoulder burn post-swim while biking? My first time experienced it, it was excruciating. Any advice for training to not experience this on race day? I should note that my bike is a hybrid road bike with flat bars and not a TT bike or a bike equipped with aero bars. Hashtag Coach's Corner. Yeah, okay. Shoulder burn after swimming, you're going to get some. Your arms are going to be tired when you get on the bike. That's part of the challenge of triathlon. I would say that most likely you've nailed the issue right there in the last sentence, and that is that your bike is not a road bike or a TT bike. It is a hybrid bike with a flat bar. So that obviously is going to have your body, your shoulders in this position. You're holding that shoulder up, and there's very small muscles here that have to hold those shoulders in that position. And your natural inclination is to do this, but you can't do that when your hands are flat like this. If you went onto a road bike or a TT bike, your arms would be like this, your shoulders would be far more relaxed, and you wouldn't get any of that burn. It's probably not related to your swimming at all. Obviously, you're feeling it because your shoulders are already so tired from swimming, where you don't feel it when you're just getting on the bike. But it is probably just a bike position thing. You can put clip-on aero bars on your hybrid flat bike. So you could put them on the flat bar and you could lean down onto those. Would make you a lot more aerodynamic and more comfortable. Your shoulders would be more comfortable. But yeah, you probably only are going to look at upgrading to a road bike or even a triathlon bike in the near future, and you may find that this issue is no longer an issue.
Or even if you do have base bars, or you can put base bars on your, so you can actually just change that rotation. And plus, when you're doing a race, you might find that, it's just amazing you're doing this in training, because a lot of people don't do the swim to bike transition. But if you're adding in a wetsuit, I don't know what sort of training you're doing now, but you might find there's less stress on your shoulders. You'll be rested going into the race. So hopefully it won't be as bad on race day anyway, but great that you are practicing it.
Yeah, one last thing I'll say is don't squeeze those handlebars too tightly. So something that beginners tend to do, they really tend to grip hold really hard onto their handlebars for safety, and just because they're a bit nervous and they train really hard. You don't need to hold. Squeezing your bars hard does not in any way make you go faster. Just relax those hands a little bit and you may find that all this pain goes away. We hope your questions today have helped you. If they have, leave a thumbs up down below. And remember to leave your questions below any of our videos, including this one, #GTN Coaches Corner. And next week we could be answering your question.